shine a light. It's been one heck of a week. One thing, however, is for certain. Either Vanessa or Dan are going to be evicted. But not tonight. Torchy Torch out.
Welcome to the show. Coming up on the show, exclusive information about what's happening on tonight's show. Hello.
Hello.
As if by magic, Davina, with a microphone on, just walks through set.
Hi.
Any information about what's happening on tonight's show?
None whatsoever. I was hoping maybe you could fill me in. I don't know what's going to happen at all. I don't think there's going to be an eviction, but I don't know. I've got no idea, really.
What are you wearing?
Black.
Oh, brilliant. Up top.
Great.
Later, dude.
See you later.
Also on tonight's show, Mark Frith telling us what the housemates must do to regain the favour of the voting public. And the lovely lady that is Lauren Laverne's on the show today, and she is very lovely. She's giving her no-holds-barred opinion on the house this week. We kick off, as we always do, a Little Brother's Big News. OK, we're playing Huck Finn with you a little bit because news flash. Tonight's eviction has been postponed. Yes, you heard me the first time, postponed. Making this Big Brother's first ever rollover week. That's how we're looking at it. Take a look at this.
Housemates, tonight's eviction has been postponed and will take place next Friday. The public vote will continue, and as such there will be no nominations next week following the events of this week. Big Brother believes that the housemates require time to resolve their differences as a group. Big Brother.
Oh my God! Sorry, chaps, you got me another win.
OK, to allow the house to settle, Dan and Vanessa will instead face eviction next Friday. Lines are still open. Votes already made will be carried over. 2 days after Emma and Michelle's return, Jason finally realises exactly what they've been up to in the bedsit. That's news 2. Take a look at it.
Who do you think put eggs in my bed and kept turning the shower cold and Victor was going for a shower?
No.
How come it only happened when two people were away and it stopped when they come back?
No.
Oh, no.
No, like, seriously, I don't think they
All right,
have
then.
enough power, though.
Of course they will. How would they not?
Well, maybe we should ask first.
Well, I'm
Sounds
not-
better to ask.
Well, I'll tell them if they want to know. I'm not going to ask them because they'll just deny it, which they have done.
It's not a happy bunny. And finally, we all gave a sigh of relief today when we realised 3 days after the fancy dress party, the Sheriff of Elstree was still in town. Yee-hoo!
Where's Victor?
Here, what?
I asked if we could get you a Baddies cowboy outfit, and they were like, does Victor want this? And I was like, yeah, he suggested it.
I
Oh, then definitely.
Yeah.
We need a busty wedge.
Well, no, I want a Calamity Jane outfit.
Yeah, you could use your hairdo, couldn't you?
Yeah, I could.
Calamity Jane, slap my thigh.
It's pretty interesting because here at BBLB we've uncovered evidence that being a sheriff actually runs in Stuart's genes, or we should say his chaps. Take a look at this. Isn't that adorable? That is Bubba Stewart, which was taken about, 5 years ago. There he is, being a sheriff there, runs in the family. That was Little Brother's Big News. Hello, love, you're right. OK, as you may well have noticed, at times this week, our housemates have not been the best of friends. After all the arguments, however, there has to be light at the end of the tunnel. With that in mind, today's Call BBLB is quite simply, who do you think has come out of all of this looking the best? These are numbers to call. To coin a phrase, everybody's talking about it, and I mean everybody, but there's one barometer we can always rely on. We want to know what the viewing public think. Their leader is a man called Dr. Mark Frith.
Everyone's been a doctor this week, haven't they? It's the theme of
My
the
new
week.
thing now, everyone's a doctor. What have you made of all the fireworks this week, Doctor?
Well, I found yesterday's Channel 4 show at times a little difficult to watch, I think, like a lot of people. But I'm really interested in how things are calming down now, and I think we're going to see a very different side to people next week. And if people do calm down and promise to calm down and do it long term, and I think they can, then we're going to see an interesting show.
Absolutely. OK, you're here to talk us through the current public attitudes towards each of the housemates. Yeah. Firstly, after all the arguments, is there anyone you think that's come out of this smelling of roses?
Dan was fantastic. I don't think that any of us, in all honesty, could say that we'd have been calm in that situation. You know, in an inflammatory situation with all that was going on, could we honestly say that we'd have actually managed to calm things down? And he did. And this is a guy who must feel quite claustrophobic in there. I mean, the guy's 6'5".
Yeah.
When you're that tall, you feel, and I should know, you feel pretty claustrophobic about everything. But he dealt with it really, really well. His temper didn't go at any point. He was playing a different game, and I thought that was just fantastic. And people won't forget that. Stuart as well, a very different approach. I mean, he was, you know, pretty assertive physically,
yes,
but he needed to be. Someone needed to be, before the security came in that situation, really assertive, and he was brilliant as well.
Wouldn't have bet on Stuart. I mean, Stuart, for me, has been a classic fence-sitter for the last couple of weeks, so for him to do that was quite something.
And I think those two people now have got to be joint favourites, by probably quite a distance.
OK, yesterday was full of apologies. Firstly, Nadia had this to say to Jason. What's your take on this?
You are, darling.
Jason, I've asked you to come and see me because I want to apologise for my actions. I'm not justifying them because they were very wrong. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to obviously lash out on you. I just want to apologise.
Now, like you were saying, Dan pretty much brokered that deal. Up to now, Nadia's been very fun-loving, very likeable. She let herself down the other night. She knows that. So what does she need to do now?
Well, she didn't actually remember much of the other night, I think. And that's a weird one for Nadia. I think that was tough for her, but I think she did it really well. I think it's brilliant how people like Shell and Dan have helped kind of get these people together and help talk about them, get them to talk together. I think Nadia still has a lot of goodwill because she is seen as a kind of fun-loving girl and people love the laugh. And I think that, you know, she has that kind of natural goodwill. But you know, she was trouble the other night, and I think that she needs to deal better with not having cigarettes, and she certainly needs to deal better with the odd drink or two.
Yes, indeed. OK, next up it was Jason and Marco's turn. Mano and Marco, take a look.
I mean, I'm going to apologise to you for my threatening behaviour because that was wrong. But I'm not going to apologise for anything else that happened. I'm going to apologise for saying I threatened you because that I shouldn't have done that. But
and I apologise for goading you as well, which I did.
I felt you were trying to get a reaction out of me.
OK.
We'll get to Marco in a minute, but Jason's really let himself down the last couple of days.
Yeah, he has. In those situations, you have to apologise for everything. You have to apologise even for things that you haven't done to help really diffuse a situation. But I see that, and I kind of see that he's turning actually into the grumpy old man of the house. Yeah. And I think that's not going to help him. This guy has got to realise that everything he's doing is seen by the people who can get him out of the house or save him and maybe make him win.
Pride's the issue here, isn't it?
I think it is, but he's got to realise that if he does have this game plan, and the thing we're not talking about is clearly Jason and Victor have this incredible game plan that they're obsessed by, utterly obsessed by, nothing else matters. And Emma and Michelle coming back into the house means their game plan is faltering a bit.
Yeah.
And they took it really bad. You've got to rise above that.
Up until a couple of days ago, Marco seemed very popular. I mean, I know he got on people's nerves, but he didn't seem as particularly offensive. How's he now, and what does he need to do?
Well, there's different opinions on this. I think he was one of the reasons why it all kicked off. I thought his actions were completely over the top and would have wound anyone up, actually. Clearly he was excited, of course. His best friends were coming back in. He was, you know, in a weak position. The harem barely existed with Emma and Michelle in the bedsit. So he was, of course, really excited about that. But that was just intimidation. It was ridiculous. Anyone would have been wound up by that. And the smirks on his face as well.
Sure.
You could do without.
So what does he need to do now?
Well, I think that if he seemed in the apology there to Jason, I thought he seemed there's a real humility there, and I thought that was really good. And I think if he can keep doing that and people believe it, then he's back on track.
OK, finally, the girls had a heart-to-heart. This is Nadia and Vanessa kissing and making up.
Yeah. Do you guys want to?
I'd like to apologise for my actions yesterday. I'm not justifying them. I'm just apologising.
OK, I'm apologising for hitting you. I should have never done that.
Thank you.
I was just
I'd been pushed together.
I know.
And I should have never. If it hadn't been you, I probably somebody else would have pushed me, and I would have pushed them.
I didn't have an issue with you at all. We sort of a little bit not compatible, fair enough. But my actions obviously were out of order, and I'm apologising for that. So.
It was wrong to have pushed you the other way, and I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Okay. I'm sorry. You can tell me anything, really. I can take it.
That's nice. It's adult. It's humble. Is it enough?
No. Vanessa's problem in saving herself from eviction next week is she isn't Dan. And Dan is not only likeable and was one of the favourites, probably the favourite before all this kicked off anyway, but his behaviour there, and he was genuine and it was not to win a game, was so likeable that being up against him, I think it's going to be really tough for her. I don't know what she can do. It's got to be a lot more of that. I thought that was a really sweet bit of footage. And I think if she can do a lot more of that, then fine. But Dan has to falter for her to stand a chance of staying in next Friday.
OK, so who's the current favourite right now to win the whole thing?
I would say that there's a slight advantage to Stuart. Just because often the voting is going to be people who are going to vote for who they fancy, and there's clearly a lot of people who fancy Stuart.
Sure.
But Dan, as well, stands a really good chance. I'd say they're probably joint favourites.
I have to say, Stuart's no longer called Stuart, is now only called the Sheriff.
The Sheriff, of course. Okay. And he does like that role, doesn't he?
He loves it. Well, he's living it.
How many days is he going to wear
exactly. You're with us for Call BBUK
sure.
later on. Thank you very much. Coming up after the break, we'll be letting loose Miss Lauren Laverne, so we'll see you in 3. Hey, welcome back to Big Brother's Little Brother. In a moment, Lauren Laverne will be here telling us what she thinks about this week's developments. But first, a reminder of the big news. In order to let the house settle after this week's incredible events, tonight's eviction has been postponed. You heard me correctly. I said postponed until next Friday. It's a Big Brother. I'm trying to put a positive spin on it. It's a Big Brother eviction rollover, which means it's doubly excitement next week. Here's a reminder of just how we got to this crazy situation.
You are now working for Big Brother. Wow! What, I go back? I got a smile on the face.
Chicken!
Smile!
Now, this is Big Brother. Your bed has now been skankified.
She just doesn't have any brains, mate.
Get me out of this room now. Get me out of this room now. No naked jacuzzi-ness.
We need to calm down.
Yeah, I know. I'm calm down now, Dan.
So,
I'm calm down.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Let's hope. It's wrong for presenters to have favourites, but I can't help myself sometimes. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Lauren Laverne.
Hi, Dermot.
Hello, Doctor.
Solid.
How are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
What do we make of Big Brother 5?
Oh, my God. I mean, it's just amazing. I think last night, everybody I've spoken to, I think without exception, has said it was literally the best thing I've ever seen in my life. I don't think I've ever enjoyed an experience more than watching last night's show.
Seriously?
It was amazing. I love it.
Wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
It's right what Mark said, though, because there were moments where you just did feel like you were watching something quite uncomfortable.
Yeah, and yet I was enjoying that. It's the car crash factor.
Okay,
you still slow down and have a little look.
You've got a lot of opinions about this year's housemates.
I have.
Over to you.
OK, right. Where do I start? Well...
Who do you like first?
Who do I like? I really like Nadia at the minute. I really like Nadia. Obviously, I really like Dan. Dan's great. I've liked him from the start. But Nadia's brilliant. I like the fact that she's not an open book. She has this massive secret. And I really like the fact that actually, you know, it's just nobody's business that she's a transsexual. And they all have their suspicions. And the other night, they tried to get her to talk about it by having the conversation. And she just wasn't going for it.
She just sat there smoking.
She just sat there. And I love that. That really, you know, I always liked her, but that made me think I would really be quite happy if she won. I like
Least favourites?
Lisa, I really dislike Jason. I think if he gets, my brother put it best when he said, if Jason goes any further into the closet, they're going to have to rename him Aslan, because it's just like out of this world, And I think the interesting thing about the eviction is that this week between, Dan and Vanessa, is that they each bring out different sides of Jason. When Jason was sort of very friendly with Dan, he seemed like, a genuinely nice person. I think Dan brought out all his nice traits, his slight insecurities, his, sort of sense of humour. Yet he's become this horrible kind of macho sort of caricature, like, some kind of terrible 80s film carrying Vanessa across the garden. I mean, what was that? They just looked like the two people at a festival that you'd most want to avoid. And those, like, enormous boots. It was just... And, so I think what this eviction is about, really, is about what side of Jason do you want to have in the house? Do you want, the good side or the bad side?
Sure. It did have a touch of St Elmo's fire.
It did a little.
OK, Emma. Let's move on to Emma, because I know you've got some thoughts there. She's been living in the bedsit on her own ever since the big set 2 the other night.
Poor Emma.
She's been trying to convince Big Brother she's changed. This is what she was saying yesterday.
Oh, I promise, BB, I will never, ever behave like that in my life ever again. I promise. I promise. I promise. I will not behave like that ever again in my life.
Oh, look at her taking her pants off.
The way she said that while she was undressing.
Yeah. Oh, I love Emma. I'm Michelle. I've loved them in the bedsit. I thought that was one of the best things, that's happened in the whole show so far. They were absolutely fantastic together. And I really like the fact that Michelle kind of became this sort of older sister. It was like when you see an 8-year-old looking after their 5-year-old sister.
Now, are you looking, chicken? Are you looking at us?
I just thought...
Look into my eyes. So I can see you understand.
How is Michelle when it comes to a standard bearer for the North East?
Michelle's
womanhood?
brilliant. She's such an archetype. She really is, right down to the hair. I can almost hear her on the big market walking around going, hey, I'll put me chips down in a minute and I'll come out of there and fight you. But, she's fantastic. I think Michelle, she got a lot of flack because there is a touch of the stalker about her with regards to Stuart. But then, to be fair to her, she's not lying about her feelings. She likes Stuart. She's never said anything else. Stuart's the one that's blowing hot and cold. Why isn't he getting more flack? That's my question.
OK, on to the eviction rollover. It's between Dan and Vanessa. You obviously like Dan. Why are you campaigning for Dan next week?
Big D, he's got to stay in. Well, I mean, for a start, he's much more interesting than Vanessa. I think Dan has yet to, really reveal his true potential. He's very bright. He brought the phrase "going down like a granny on a frosty morning" back into my consciousness, and for that I will be forever in his debt because I'd totally forgotten about it.
OK, well, Lauren, there are 2 people involved in the eviction next week. You're clearly a big Dan fan, we know that, but here on BBUK we like to play it as fair as we possibly can. So we've got another big Vanessa supporter on the line right now. Vanessa told us before she went into the house there were 2 men in her life she would love to go out on a date with. One was Ben Fogle, the other was Brad Pitt. We've got one of them on the line right now. Hello there, Ben Fogle. Hello, Ben.
How cool is that?
It is very cool. Will you be supporting Vanessa in the eviction then?
Of course I am.
Hang on. We couldn't get a picture of you, so this is all we've got. Sorry, fella.
Okay.
So, I mean, she named the 2 of you famous men she fancies. If she is evicted, is there any chance you could be going on a date with her?
You know what? I've been skipping around since I found out, Dermot. So I don't know. I don't know how I'm supposed to play this. What should I do? Should I leave her some flowers?
I think it'd be a great idea. What do you? I mean, you're the country boy. Any specific sort of flowers?
Ooh, I don't know. I'll have a look while I'm out shooting in the countryside. I'll pick her some weeds or something.
Fantastic. Why do you think she should stay in? Just very briefly.
Well, apart from the fact that she's far better looking than Dan. I think, especially after the antics the other night, I think she just brings a little bit of stability to the house. I think she's a little bit more kind of worldly and maybe a little bit more mature than some of the others. And I think the house needs, especially after the other night's antics, I think they need someone just to control the situation a little bit. And I think that is what Vanessa can bring, as well as, did I mention she's very pretty?
Thank you very much, Ben. Yes, you did. And off he goes. See you, Ben.
Cheers.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Lauren. Thank you very much, Ben. One of them's going to be going eventually, but who it's going to be, you decide. Just a moment, cool BBLB, but first a quick recap of today's main news stories. Big Brother's decided to postpone this week's nominations or evictions to allow the House to settle. Dan and Vanessa will now face a public vote next Friday. 2 days after Emma and Michelle's return, Jason finally realises what they've been up to in the bedsit. And And finally, despite all that's happened, Stuart is still wearing that fancy dress cowboy hat. Today's Cool BBLB is, after all this week's events, who's coming out smelling the roses and looking the best? Lauren and Mark are still with us. And let's go to the phones ASAP. This should be John from Cardiff on the line. Hello, John.
Hello, Dermot. How are you?
How are you?
I'm fine, thanks.
You're going with the Stuart and Dan theory, I believe.
Yes, definitely.
It's where the smart money is, really, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And they're both peacekeepers as well.
Why in particular?
Well, Stuart and Dan, they both kept the peace. They've kept everything together. Without them there, I think everything will just go to pieces.
I mean, you know, what do you think would have happened had they not been there?
Well, so I think security would have had them going there a bit quicker than they did.
Yeah, absolutely. OK. I mean, and are they your favourites as well? And would you like them to win?
I would say that Stuart and Dan will be in the final.
OK. Sheriff and Dan. What do you think of that?
I'm happy about Dan. I think Stuart's a trifle vapid, really, for me. But he's just like, he's like a big baby, isn't he, really? He's just like, very much like a child.
Mark, you're inhaling.
I think he's a bit smarter than everyone thinks. I think he's just playing a waiting game. I think his policy always was that he would, you know, he would be quiet until a few weeks in.
See these?
Go on.
4 A-levels. So he can't be that dumb, can he?
What grades, though?
I don't know.
And what A-levels? What if it's like...
A couple of E's and general studies.
General studies does not count.
It does too.
Life skills.
Next up, Jeanette from Blackpool. You have got an interesting theory. Who's come out smelling of roses, Jeanette?
I think Emma's come out smelling of roses.
You think Emma has come out?
Yeah.
Emma. OK, give us your theory.
Well, I think Victor's intimidated her and he's put her down and everything, but she's come out, she's stood up to him. She's not having no messing about with him, but I think she's got they've got everybody against each other, and I don't think they're going to get back together.
You don't?
No.
What do you think can happen then?
It's going to get worse because the first time they ever get a drink or there's an argument or bitchiness or anything, it's all going to blow back to this.
Yeah.
I think they should separate them. I think they should put them into two divines, separate Victor and Jason. Because them two try to take over, and I'd separate all the groups. I'd separate Michelle from Stuart, put them in with, like, Victor.
They would just be watching people on their own. I've got a separate theory to that, which is that Emma and Victor are actually going to end up together.
Well, I was thinking they should have had a ball dance and put them two as partners, and then whoever won got to spend the night with one of the family.
Oh, nice. You're good, you are. Thank you very much, Jeanette.
Thanks a lot, Dermot.
Lastly,
see you later.
Sherry from Brentford. Hello, Sherry.
Hello, Dermot.
OK, go for it.
I think that Michelle has come out looking the best. Michelle from the Bed Sit.
OK.
Because not only did she take herself out of all the trouble in the house, she didn't get involved in any of the arguments or fights.
Got to stop you there. Sorry, Ham. We're going in 3 seconds. Take care. Watch 9 o'clock tonight. See you on Sunday. Bye-bye.